What's up, guys? Welcome to your 159th Android tutorial for the new Boston, where we're going to finish our weather app, or our XML parsing activity here. And just to do a quick review, I'll talk about some of the things, and then at the end of this tutorial I'll kind of talk about everything that we've done. So what we did is we set up an XML parser for these 3 lines code, and then we also set up a handling stuff instance called doing work. We set our content handler to look for the things that we actually want to do and all that stuff, and then we also set up a parser to read the actual information from the website. So we set up this instance called doing work, which is basically our handle. It's telling our XML reader what to look for, all that good stuff, and then we're going to parse it from this website, or this input source, which is our website that we're referring to. And then what we're going to do is we need to still set up a string to set our text value as. So what we're going to do is we're going to relate to our handler, or basically this class called the handling XML stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a string, and we're going to call this information. All we're going to do is refer to this handling XML stuff instance we call doing work. And we're going to set up a method in that class to return a string. So we're just going to say doing work, which is again our variable name. We're just going to say get information, or whatever you guys want to make this method be called. That's going to return a string for us, and then all we're going to do is say text view set text to information. So again, all we really need to do is return some sort of a string within our doing work, or within our handling XML stuff class. So we're going to jump over to that class real quickly, and again, we just need to create a method that returns a string. So we're just going to say public string, because we have to tell it what we're returning. It's going to be a string variable, and we're just going to call this method again get information. And now we need to return some sort of a string, so we're just going to say return, and then we're going to refer to our data collected variable, which we called info, and we're just going to say data to string, and that's what we're returning. Again, within this handling class, we set up a data collected variable called info, and then once the element starts reading, or XML reader starts reading, it's going to set the information, set our city. If there is a reference to the city with the attribute called data, it's going to set the city. Again, just going over to that class, the setting the city is just creating these variables we set up within this class to equal whatever's being passed in. And then this string method basically uses those variables to write our sentence. And that's all we're returning, is basically the information, and then we're using that method that returns that sentence that we want. Now when we save everything, it's basically going to interpret all that, and I believe our activity should be done. Let's just run it real quickly, and I'll do a quick overview of everything that we did. Again, I know I've kind of been explaining it, but whoops, run it on the emulator here. And again, this is the class that we put within the manifest. We don't need to put those other classes in the manifest, but we do need to have our weather XML parsing class within the manifest. Then we start up our activity, we scroll down to the weather XML parsing class, we click that, enter, again, let's just test Lincoln, and if Google accepts Lincoln, it's like, hey, I know what you're talking about, we don't even have to enter the state, because it's like, oh, there's pretty much only one Lincoln, most likely, there's probably one in Illinois or something as well, but then it basically parses all of our data, and we use that return method to get this string down here. So let's quickly talk about everything that we have done. And again, our main class, all we do is we set up an on-click listener, and we create a string builder to refer to the actual city and state, and append the right format, because according to the Google Weather API, we want it in the right format so it looks at the right website. Then we just create a string or a URL that we're going to read, and we set up an XML reader just through the SAX parser factory, through the SAX parser, and then finally the XML reader. Then what we do is we set up handling instance that's going to kind of interpret the data or look for the things that we want to look for, and also we have that method within that class called get information that's going to return a string. So now that we have our reader is going to do the work that we want it to do, and we're going to parse it from this website, which again is just the Google Weather API. And then we're just going to create a string that gets the information and set the text view. But again, this getting information from our handler. So let's go into our handler class, talk about that real quickly. Again, we just set up a new instance of the data collected object, and then all we're going to do is define what we want the city and the state to be according to the values off the website that we're looking for. And then it's going to just return that data, process that data into our info object or info instance. And then all we're going to do is use that instance and use the method from our XML data collected class to return the actual string that we want to display. And that's pretty much it. I mean, this last class is pretty basic. We just set up our variables and then we return those same variables once they're set up through this method. So hopefully you guys kind of understand a little bit more about parsing. I know in JSON we didn't really get into too much depth, but hopefully this was in depth enough for you. And I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one.